Kyron brothers, the Finnish team. Robert Visu for MW Arden heads back out after doing a drive-through penalty for a jump start. We lost Melvin McKee on the opening lap. And Visu now drops to the tail of the field. Little cue here, Tom Gaymore behind Nick Yellerly. At the moment, I don't think he'll be wildly worried about that, because as everybody closes up in the queue behind him, actually they worry about each other as much as they worry about him.
Yellerly's just managing it now. Look, he's just pulled out. He realised that he just dropped back into the clutches of the toe. Fuminelli could, well, try and get a run on him into turn one, but he's just managing that gap now, a slightly quicker middle sector. This is the important sector at Barcelona, though. It's where you spend the most amount of time. The slower corners, you can win and lose a lot. And we saw in the Formula One, the Mercedes were actually 6/10 quicker than anybody else in the final sector. And it's a big traction area, and it's an area where these guys will have to manage the rear tyres.
Beginning of a busy day here for the circuit of Barcelona. And there is yesterday's race winner, car number 14, Teo Elinas, under attack from Connor Daly. Connor was on the podium in 3rd place.
And he looked the best suited driver over the end of the race. It had been one more lap, we could have probably seen Connor Daly pass both Niederhauser and Elinas.
Yeah, he came at the top two like a rocket in the closing couple of laps. Rookie orientation program started yesterday at Indianapolis, and Connor will be off to that on Monday morning. So he'll be into ROP and the build-up for the Indy 500, in which he will hopefully make his first start this season on board with Alex Fontana for Jensen Motorsport, provided yesterday's winner Patrick Niederhauser. Niederhauser in 7th place in front of Jack Harvey, and that is the Red Bull car of Danny Kvyat. Highly touted young Russian. Now, who has he tangled with? Because he's gone off backwards. And it was, dear, Ryan Cullen in the Marussia.
Oh, that's clumsy from Ryan, a rookie, and he's just got it wrong there.
However, Kvyat may, or perhaps should have known he was on the inside. Cullen didn't turn out towards him. He managed to keep his line nice and tight. There was room to survive, Tom, and you're never going to finish a race or win a race if you don't finish it.
I think, you know, you have to be at this level quite a long way alongside before the turning point if you're going to make a move stick. Turn 4 is still a medium speed corner. It's not like turn 5, which is the first fully slow speed corner they come to on this circuit. The braking zone isn't huge.
I'll tell you what, if they were on motorcycles, they would have both survived that corner. And that's the big difference between racing a car and racing a bike. Nick Yellerly in 3rd place, David Fuminelli in 4th, hoping for a podium spot. A couple of laps ago, Yellerly was doing 139s, they're now down to 140s. The leaders from 38s are down to 39.9s. So already a 1 second drop off, at least in race pace, and we still have 11:10 to go after this. So we had a safety car as well, so we've had 5 racing laps, and they've already lost 1.5 seconds from their fastest lap.
So Courjus actually quickest so far. I think he managed to get into the 37s, which is similar to what we saw yesterday, the 37s, 38. Some of the guys yesterday were finishing up in the 46s, some of them in the 49s, which is just incredible.
Sainz under pressure already from the bamboo car right behind him. And that's Lewis Williamson. So he got by Williamson. Remember, we saw him following him on lap 1. That's Lewis Williamson in number 20, 23 behind them. That's Giovanni Venturini.
And this MW Arden car was one of the cars to really struggle yesterday. They stayed late at the circuit. They've literally thrown the kitchen sink at it. They got it wrong. It was interestingly enough around this time in the race that he started to struggle yesterday.
Yeah. I.e. very early on. Ryan Cullen in the pits. He's dragged the car back, but there's not much they're going to be able to do with that. It's got a broken front leg, hasn't it? So that's the end of that. That's not actually a technical term, yes. So another little battle shaping up here. This is for 14th. Dino Zamparelli, the British driver, ahead of Alex Fontana. And Nick Yellowly goes very wide indeed, and that was a wake-up call, wasn't it? That was the equivalent of motorcycle racer popping up out of the seat. That was your one and only warning, and Yellowly now is in full defensive mode, and suddenly Fuminelli and Tio Elinas in the red and black Marussia car, who is sliding off the corners as well, now they feel that there is a chance to move up.
Perfect for Yellowly. Made a mistake, had to go defensive, but Fuminelli has Elinas breathing down his neck, and that's really taken the pressure immediately off Yellowly, and so Yellowly can get back into his rhythm there. Just opening up the lock in turn 3 would have felt the oversteer, and this is the big discussion that, as well as tyres, that we're talking about in all formulas this weekend in Barcelona, and that is the runoff, the ability to be able to go, well, actually I can open up the steering and not use
and not spin out of the race,
because absolutely. I can use the runoff. And I was watching the GP2 race yesterday, and you know, it's coming out of turn 10. You can literally use all of that runoff and still keep on the outside of someone up to 11 and 12. But anyway, that's a story for a rainy day.
This is Fontana behind Zamparelli, and you just saw again. Listen, just having to breathe the throttle there, where you should have it drilled in the final corner. You saw Zamparelli's car snaking under acceleration, and that's not, you know, a problem with him or the driving of it. It's just the way that the tyres are now starting to really give up their earlier grip. But it's going to make it for a very different championship. And actually what this might well do, Tom, is completely level the playing field between guys who raced here last year and guys who've never driven these cars before, because of course actually nobody's raced these cars before up until yesterday morning or yesterday afternoon.
Yeah, it's no coincidence at the moment that the top 6, 7, well, top 9 is really filled with the experienced lads, and I don't just mean GP3 guys that have done multiple years of research and development in F3, guys that have done World Series by Renault, people that really understand how to go about their driving, as Fuminelli makes a mistake down into turn 10.
Fuminelli goes for the brakes and finds out that the brakes are there, but the tyres don't want to play game.
It was that front left, wasn't it? And they get a lot of deg on the rear tyres, but the front left has a lot of deg on it because of that long
It's
turn
almost
3.
all right-handers here, isn't it? As it is on any clockwise track, of course, but it is particularly hard on the front left. Leaders, Vigno and Corjus, still less than a second apart now in the 141s, 141.7, 141.6. Yellowly 141.6, 141.7 for Fuminelli, 142 for Elinas, and away very wide indeed, and just getting away with that. Adderley Fong in the white and purple Status Grand Prix car again.
Silva behind.
Another change of colours we're going to have to get used to. Silva on the outside, goes around him, and through he goes. That's another Marussia car behind. Is that Dino Zamparelli behind him? Yes, it is. Dino Zamparelli, and inside Zamparelli goes Fontana, just drives right by him.
Cheeky
on the
move.
inside on tyre grip.
Cheeky move. Just kept the car tighter.
And Zamparelli comes right back at him. Nice counter-attacking from Dino. On board with Alex Fontana, right behind Dino Zamparelli.
So looking at yesterday's race pace, Vigno was one of the drivers that actually suffered the least amount of deg. I mean, he was only 3 seconds off his best time, with some of the guys up to 12 seconds off their best time. Corjus 5 seconds off his best time in yesterday's race. So the Corinen cars actually fairly well suited to this new Pirelli tyre. And it'll be interesting to see what Yellowly does now. 4.5 seconds, the gap. He's going to have to start bridging that.
Great onboards from Alex Fontana. Dino Zamparelli right in front. Watch Zamparelli pick up the throttle. Yes, look at that. The car just weaves and wriggles at both ends. And you see Fontana watch his hands as well when he picks up the power. And actually, sometimes mid-corner, suddenly well, it's not even as if he's catching the slide, but his hands react as his hands just sort of keep the front wheels forward as the car tracks left and right underneath him. I mean, here you are riding a bit of a bucking bronco. Green helmet of Connor Daly, son of Derek Daly, the former Grand Prix driver, of course. He lies in 6th position now because Theo Elinas starting to ease away, leaving Connor to deal with Patrick Niederhauser, who finished 2nd in yesterday's race behind the Cypriot. Elinas with the unique record now of having won consecutive races in different seasons. So he won the very last race in Monza last year, won the very first one in Barcelona this year.
What a stat.
It is a bit of a stat. The stewards will look at the Kvyat and Cullen contact, presumably through the same slightly bizarre spectacles that are used for most support race decisions here in the Formula 1 paddock.
No comment.
Yeah, indeed. Again, watch the hands here. What are we going to see from Zonzini? Oh, stop, off the brakes! Off the brakes, you can't steer while the fronts are locked up like skis.
The rears were locked as well, because he was frantically going down the box and you could see it was almost pointed towards the wall. That was more luck than judgment there.
I'm not sure there's even much luck involved in it. Jimmy Eriksson is in the pits from Status Grand Prix, not quite sure why. For why, Keats, for why, he is in anyway. So that drops him to Taylor Field, leaves Carmen Jorda in the Bamboo Engineering car in 22nd spot as our last runner.
So everybody in the 42s now, which is a drop-off of about 4 or 5 seconds.
It's a second a lap there. Well, it's not actually, it's about half a second a lap. You can see that, look, 41.7, 41.7, 42.2, that's half a second.
Big lock up from someone.
Either somebody's blown up like a turbo-era Formula 1 car, or somebody's got no rubber left in one big spot, and that might well have been Nick Yellerly, who is again under pressure.
It might well have been, because he's just dropped back. He closed the gap to 4 seconds, and
he moved away from Fuminelli as well, who is all over him.
He needs Elinas to come and give him a hand now. Make Fuminelli the meat in that sandwich, and that's exactly what's going to happen. Yellerly's a clever young driver. He thinks about it, and he doesn't fluster himself, and defensive driving is part of it.
Yep.
You know, it's a huge skill. It's a skill that
it's
we've
like
lost
football.
in
If you
Formula
give the
1,
ball away, then there's no point in having great strikers, and it's exactly the same in a racing car. If you can't withstand pressure, then you've got no place being at the front of the race.
There's a big flat spot.
Yes, you can just see it going round, that shiny patch on his, looks like he's run over something wet. Yeah, that is a hole developing in the tyre, and every time he brakes, Tom, as it gets right to locking, just as that flat area on the tyre reaches the ground, it will lock again, and it will just grind even more away off that particular area.
And it'll give his fittings something to think about as well.
Yeah, that's Fuminelli.
That's Yellerly. That's Yellerly,
yes,
spun round.
Yellerly and Fuminelli. Oh, that's a real shame for the Carlin driver.
I don't believe it. So let's have a replay.
Well, I wonder if they caught